Hey guys, tonight we're peeling back the heavy gold-threaded bed curtains of antiquity to peer into the peculiar, often bizarre, and sometimes surprisingly relatable nighttime routines of ancient kings. Imagine, if you will, the immense pressure of ruling an empire, the weight of thousands, even millions of lives resting on your shoulders. Now picture trying to get a decent night's sleep with all that swirling in your head. Not to mention the constant, very real threat of assassins, coups, or divine displeasure. You're not just any ruler, you're a king, a pharaoh, an emperor, often considered a living god, or at least a direct hotline to celestial customer service. The air in your royal bedchamber is thick, not just with the scent of exotic incense like kai-fi or smouldering cedar, but with expectation, with the silent hum of immense power, and perhaps a touch of existential dread. You'd think these rulers had it all figured out, but their nights were often filled with strange rituals, desperate pleas to silent gods, and security measures that would make a modern Secret Service agent blush. Honestly, with some of the things these monarchs got up to before bed, you probably wouldn't survive their night routine, let alone the day job that followed. Forget your weighted blanket and white noise machine. We're talking about things far more elaborate. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It really does help the channel drift peacefully into the algorithm's good graces. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see our community of night owls and history buffs stretching across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our first stop on this nocturnal tour takes us to the sun-drenched lands of ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh, a god-king, prepares for his nightly sojourn into the Duat, the realm of the dead, which he, unlike mere mortals, is expected to navigate and return from, hopefully with some good news for the kingdom. You see, for the Egyptians, sleep wasn't just a biological necessity. It was a perilous journey, a mini-death, and dreams were direct messages from the gods. So, the pharaoh's bedtime wasn't merely about winding down, it was about gearing up for a divine encounter. As dusk settles over the Nile, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, you, as pharaoh, are escorted to your private chambers. These aren't the vast public halls you've spent your day in, but a more intimate, though still grand space. The air is cooler here, perhaps perfumed with lotus or frankincense. Your bed, often made of wood, sometimes gilded with intricately carved legs depicting protective deities, doesn't have a fluffy pillow like you'd expect. Instead, there's a headrest, usually made of wood, ivory, or even stone. Sounds incredibly uncomfortable, right? Like trying to nap on a dictionary. But the idea was to elevate the head, perhaps for better breathing, or maybe symbolically to keep the royal mind closer to the heavens. Before you even think about reclining, there are rituals. Purification is key. You might be anointed with sacred oils by priests or trusted servants, their hushed chants filling the room. These oils aren't just old spice for the olden days. They're consecrated, imbued with protective qualities. You might also wear specific amulets to bed, perhaps a scarab for transformation and protection, or an ankh for life. The popular dwarf god Bes, often depicted as a rather comically fierce figure, was a common protector of sleep, warding off nightmares and evil spirits. Imagine a tiny, grumpy bouncer for your subconscious. Now, the main event, the dreams themselves. Pharaohs didn't just have dreams, they had state-sanctioned visions. These weren't your average, oops, I forgot my homework, stress dreams. These were prophecies, warnings, divine instructions. So, a crucial part of the royal night staff was the master of the secret things, a rather cool job title for a dream interpreter. This was often a high priest, highly educated and presumably highly intuitive, or at least very good at spin. When you awake, your every mumbled recollection of shadowy figures or talking animals would be meticulously recorded on papyrus. Then comes the interpretation, a dream of a clear sky, prosperity, a dream of a brewing storm. Better start appeasing some gods or maybe a grumpy vizier. Historians still argue whether these interpreters genuinely believed every nuance of their readings, or if they were incredibly skilled political advisors using the malleable medium of dreams to guide or even subtly manipulate the pharaoh's decisions. It's a bit like a divine weather forecast, but with significantly higher stakes if you get it wrong. My lord, the dream about the hippo eating your favorite sandals clearly indicates a bountiful barley harvest, or possibly that you should lay off the fig wine before bed. Specific offerings were often made before sleep, perhaps to encourage favorable dreams or to solicit guidance on a particular issue. This might involve dedicating food and drink at a small in-chamber shrine or reciting specific prayers. Some texts, like the Book of the Dead, which was more of a guide for the actual afterlife, contained spells and incantations that could also be adapted for protection during sleep. Think of it as spiritual malware protection for your nightly journey. One mainstream historical fact is the existence of dream books like the papyrus Chester Beatty Thread, which is essentially an ancient Egyptian dream dictionary listing various dream scenarios and their supposed meanings. Seeing a large cat was good, seeing yourself looking in a mirror was bad. It was surprisingly specific, and let's not forget the more mundane, yet still vital aspects. Security, of course, was paramount. Trusted guards would be stationed outside your door, and perhaps even within earshot. The silence of the palace at night would be punctuated by their soft footfalls, a reassuring rhythm against the chirping of crickets or the distant howl of a desert dog. It's a far cry from just locking the door and setting the alarm. You're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting the living embodiment of Egypt. No pressure. One quirky tidbit is the potential use of specific plants or incense, not just for aroma but for their psychoactive properties, subtly influencing the dream state to be more vivid or receptive to the gods. Though direct evidence is scarce, the Egyptians were master herbalists, and it's not a huge leap to imagine them trying to give the divine connection a little nudge. It's like ancient microdosing for divine inspiration. So as you finally lay your royal head upon that unyielding headrest, surrounded by sacred symbols, protected by chants, and with the weight of an empire's future possibly resting on what your subconscious cooks up, you drift off, not into a simple, restful slumber, but into a vital, sacred mission. Let's hope you dream of fat cows and full granaries, for Egypt's sake, and try not to snore too loudly. You wouldn't want to wake the gods, or worse, your dream interpreter, who's probably trying to catch some sleep himself, poor fellow. The sun sets over the Palatine Hill, and Rome, a city of marble and ambition, slowly quiets, though never truly sleeps. You, however, are not just any Roman. You are Gaius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, known to history and perhaps to your exasperated staff as Caligula. Your nights are different. While the Egyptian pharaohs sought divine messages through sleep, you, in your rather unique imperial style, seem to prefer a more direct pre-sleep consultation. After a day of, shall we say, unconventional ruling, perhaps appointing your horse to high office or planning a rather showy invasion of Britain by ordering your soldiers to collect seashells, you prepare for a night that is less about rest and more about celestial tete-a-tetes. Your imperial bedchamber in the Domus Tiberiana is opulent, of course. Silks from the east, mosaics depicting heroic scenes, perhaps some of your own imagined victories, and the ever-present scent of expensive perfumes. But the real focus of your late-night attention isn't the plushness of your mattress, which, unlike the pharaoh's austerity, would have been stuffed with fine wool or feathers. No, your gaze is drawn skyward, or at least towards the window that offers the best view. For tonight, like many nights, you have an appointment with Luna, the Roman goddess of the moon. Now, most Romans revered Luna. They built temples to her, offered sacrifices, and looked to the moon's phases for agricultural timings. But you, Caligula, take this reverence to a whole new, very personal level. According to historical accounts, particularly from Suetonius, who wasn't exactly your biggest fan, you would spend hours, sometimes until the small hours of the morning, literally talking to the moon. Historians still argue whether this was a sign of genuine religious devotion, albeit eccentrically expressed, a calculated act of political theatre to enhance your divine mystique, or, as many of your contemporaries and later chroniclers suggested, a symptom of profound mental instability. It's a bit like your neighbor who talks to his prize-winning roses, only your rose is a celestial body, and you're the most powerful man in the known world. Imagine the scene. The palace is hushed, guards discreetly trying not to eavesdrop too obviously on the emperor's lunar dialogues. You, perhaps clad in a silken toga or even more theatrical attire. Suetonius mentions you sometimes dressed as various gods or goddesses, so why not for a chat with Luna? Stand by the window or pace your chamber, addressing the silent, silvery disk in the sky. What did you talk about? Suetonius claims you would invite the moon into his embraces. One can only imagine the one-sided pillow talk. Were you seeking guidance, offering her a place in your bed, as the more scandalous interpretation suggests? Or were you complaining about the Senate, the price of grain, or the difficulty of getting good chariot mechanics? We don't know the specifics, only that these nocturnal conversations were a regular and rather baffling feature of your reign. It's a truly quirky tidbit of history. This image of the master of Rome earnestly whispering, or perhaps given your reported temperament, sometimes shouting at a largely unresponsive celestial body. The ultimate long-distance relationship, with zero chance of her ghosting you. Beyond these lunar liaisons, other aspects of a Roman emperor's night would have been more conventional, if still lavish. A light evening meal, perhaps some diluted wine, though knowing your reputation, Caligula, perhaps not so diluted. Entertainment might have included musicians playing soft melodies on the lyre or kithara, or perhaps a storyteller recounting tales of gods and heroes, which might have given you further inspiration for your own divine role-playing. A warm bath scented with oils was a Roman staple, and a pre-sleep soak would have been a luxurious way to wash off the stresses of the day, or in your case, the glitter from your latest costume. Security, of course, was even more intense than for the pharaoh. The Praetorian Guard, your personal bodyguards, were a constant presence. Their loyalty was paramount, though history shows even they could be persuaded to switch allegiances. Your sleeping chamber would have been deep within the palace complex, a fortress within a fortress. Double-checking locks, secret passwords, food tasters for that late-night snack, all standard procedure when you're at the top of a rather slippery Roman pole. One mainstream historical fact is that Roman emperors, even the seemingly unhinged ones, were often highly aware of omens and portents. A bad dream, an owl hooting at the wrong time, a sudden clap of thunder. These could all be seen as divine warnings, and priests or diviners would be consulted, much like in Egypt. You, Caligula, were reportedly quite superstitious, despite your own divine pretensions. Perhaps your chats with Luna were an attempt to get ahead of any bad omens, a bit of celestial insider trading. And what about sleep itself? Assuming you eventually tired of your conversation with the moon, or she finally set on you, would you drift off easily? Given the accounts of your erratic behavior, your paranoia, and your, let's say, active social life, a peaceful, untroubled slumber might have been elusive. Perhaps you too had headrests, though Roman pillows were generally softer than their Egyptian counterparts. You might have even employed someone to read to you, a lector, lulling you to sleep with soothing passages from Virgil, or, knowing you, perhaps something a bit more racy from Ovid. The sheer absurdity of trying to get the ruler of the known world to just go to bed like a normal person is quite amusing. No, Caesar, Luna needs her beauty sleep too, and so do you. Now, how about a nice glass of warm milk with a hint of poppy, perhaps? So, as the first hints of dawn approach and Luna finally fades from view, you, Caligula, might finally succumb to sleep, your mind perhaps still buzzing with celestial pronouncements or earthly schemes. The Roman Empire holds its breath, wondering what new strangeness the daylight and its emperor will bring. And somewhere in the palace, a bleary-eyed scribe probably jots down, "Emperor spent 3 hours wooing the moon." She seemed receptive. Further observation required. We travel east now, far from the Mediterranean moonbeams that captivated Caligula, to the burgeoning empire of Qin in a land that will one day be called China. Here, around 221 BCE, a king has just accomplished something unprecedented. He has unified the warring states and declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. This is a man of immense ambition, ruthless efficiency, and a rather significant obsession: immortality. If the pharaoh saw sleep as a journey to the gods, and Caligula saw it as a social call to a goddess, Qin Shi Huang likely viewed sleep with suspicion, a waste of precious time that could be spent achieving eternal life, or at the very least, a dangerous vulnerability. As night descends upon your imperial capital of Xianyang, the air is not filled with the scent of lotus or Roman perfumes, but perhaps with the metallic tang of construction from the countless massive projects underway. Early versions of the Great Wall, your enormous mausoleum, already being built, complete with its terracotta army. You, Qin Shi Huang, are not one for idle chatter with celestial bodies. Your focus is on earthly control and unearthly longevity. Your night rituals are therefore less about divine communication and more about absolute security and the relentless pursuit of not dying, ever. Your bedchamber, undoubtedly grand, would have been a fortress. We're talking about a level of paranoia that makes even paranoid Roman emperors look positively chill. One quirky, though perhaps apocryphal, tidbit is the legend that the emperor had numerous identical palaces and would sleep in a different one each night, his location a closely guarded secret, even from many of his own court. Imagine the logistical nightmare for your servants, constantly preparing multiple royal bedrooms, never knowing if the boss will actually show up. Is it the palace of perpetual serenity tonight, or the pavilion of pointless paranoia? Flip a coin. This constant movement was designed to thwart assassins who, given your rather heavy-handed unification policies, burning books and burying scholars alive tends to make a few enemies, were a very real concern. Before you even consider retiring to one of these secret locations, there would be meticulous security sweeps, guards loyal to the death, or else would patrol not just outside but within the palace complexes. It's said that your inner sanctum was a labyrinth of passages and hidden doors, designed to confuse intruders and allow you a quick escape. You might even have body doubles, further complicating any assassination plots. It's like a real-life game of Where's Waldo, but with significantly higher stakes and more pointy objects involved. Then there's the immortality quest. This wasn't just a passing fancy for you, it was a state-sponsored obsession. Your nights might have involved consultations with alchemists and mystics, all promising elixirs of eternal life. Picture this. Instead of a soothing cup of chamomile tea before bed, you're presented with a murky concoction of jade powder, mercury, or other exotic and likely highly toxic substances. Drink this, Your Majesty. It's guaranteed to make you live forever, or at least until breakfast, if you're lucky. Many of these elixirs contained heavy metals, and historians still argue whether Qin Shi Huang's early death at 49 was ironically hastened by these very attempts to prolong his life. It's a cosmic joke of the cruelest kind. So, your pre-sleep routine might involve examining reports from expeditions sent to find mythical lands like Penglai Mountain, where immortals were said to dwell and the elixir of life supposedly grew. You might be dictating orders for the next group of unfortunate souls to be sent on these invariably fruitless quests. Sleep in this context is an interruption to the vital work of not dying. One mainstream historical fact is the sheer scale of his tomb complex, discovered in the 1970s, with its thousands of life-sized terracotta warriors, chariots and weapons, all designed to protect him and serve him in the afterlife he was so desperately trying to avoid reaching. He was essentially building his own eternal timeshare, fully staffed. What about dreams? While not perhaps seeking prophetic guidance like the pharaohs, it's likely that an emperor so fixated on his own mortality and legacy would have paid close attention to his dreams. Any dream foretelling danger or, conversely, hinting at the success of his immortality quest would have been scrutinized. He employed court diviners and astrologers, so dream interpretation, albeit with a Qin dynasty spin, probably involving more mercury, would have been part of the nocturnal landscape. A dream of a dragon offering you a peach, Your Majesty? Excellent. That means the elixir is working, or you just really fancy a peach. The actual sleeping arrangements, beyond the secrecy, would have been luxurious by the standards of the time, but perhaps not restful. The constant fear, the weight of a newly forged and often resentful empire, and the side effects of those health drinks couldn't have made for a peaceful slumber. You might have had attendants fanning you, not just for comfort, but to keep away insects or perhaps even to create a subtle white noise to mask any suspicious sounds. The silence of your secret chamber would be heavy, pregnant with the knowledge that countless people were working even through the night on your grand projects, the wall, the canals, the tomb, all driven by your iron will. So as you finally lie down, perhaps on a lacquered wooden bed with silk cushions, in a room few even know you occupy, your mind isn't on celestial dialogues or sacred journeys. It's on a race against time, the desperate gamble for eternity. The shadows in the corners of the room might seem to shift, not with spirits, but with the ghosts of those you've conquered or the assassins you fear. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant shout in the city is a potential threat. Sleep for Qin Shi Huang wasn't a release, but a temporary grudging surrender. Let's hope your terracotta army doesn't snore. That would be truly unsettling. We journey now across the vast Pacific, though of course no one in our current era is aware of such a crossing. We find ourselves in the vibrant, teeming city of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire, a marvel of engineering built on an island in Lake Texcoco sometime in the early 16th century, just before the world as they knew it was about to be irrevocably shattered. You are Moctezuma II, the Huey Tlatoani, the great speaker, revered ruler of a powerful and complex civilization. Your nights, like those of the rulers we've already visited, are steeped in ritual and profound spiritual significance, but with a uniquely Mesoamerican flavor. As the sun god Huitzilopochtli makes his fiery descent behind the distant volcanoes, casting long shadows across the causeways and canals of your magnificent city, you prepare for the night. Tenochtitlan, with its bustling markets, fragrant chinampa gardens and towering pyramids, quiets. But a different kind of energy emerges. The spiritual hum of a city deeply connected to its cosmos. Your palace, perhaps the one described by the astonished Spanish conquistadors as being vast enough to house a small town with its aviaries, menageries, and botanical gardens, is a hub of this nocturnal energy. Your evening would likely begin with a specific kind of indulgence, one that has since conquered the world, though in a very different form, cacao. But this isn't your comforting mug of Swiss Miss. For the Aztecs, cacao, or xocolotl, was a divine substance, a gift from the god Quetzalcoatl. It was bitter, often spiced with chili peppers, vanilla, and other herbs, and frothed to a thick foam. You, Moctezuma II, were said to consume vast quantities of it, sometimes from golden goblets. Historians still argue whether this high consumption was purely for pleasure, for its stimulating effects. Cacao contains theobromine, a mild stimulant, or for ritualistic purposes, perhaps to enhance spiritual awareness or induce a particular state of mind before sleep or important ceremonies. It's like having an espresso an hour before bed, but make it sacred and spicy. The cacao might have been part of a larger pre-sleep ritual. Cleansing was important, perhaps a bath in a dedicated chamber scented with flowers or herbs from your extensive gardens. The Aztecs were meticulous about hygiene. Attendants would assist you, their movements precise and reverent. You might be adorned in fine cotton robes, perhaps decorated with feathers, a symbol of divinity and status. The air in your private quarters would be thick with the scent of copal incense, burned to purify the space and carry prayers to the gods. This wasn't just about smelling nice, it was spiritual pest control. The quirky tidbit often mentioned is Moctezuma's alleged melancholy or contemplative nature, especially as omens heralding upheaval began to appear before the arrival of the Spanish. Your nights might have been spent in deep thought, perhaps consulting with priests or wise men about the meaning of these portents, comets, floods, strange births. Sleep for you might not have been an escape, but a period of intense internal searching or even dread. The weight of prophecy hung heavy. Another flaming ear of corn in the sky, Your Majesty? Yes, the gods are definitely trying to tell us something, possibly that they're having a barbecue. Your sleeping arrangements would have been comfortable, though perhaps not in the way a European monarch would expect. Mats woven from fine reeds or jaguar skins might have covered the floor, and your bed could have been a raised platform with cotton blankets and pillows stuffed with tree cotton, kapok. The room itself would be adorned with intricate carvings, murals depicting mythological scenes or perhaps symbols of your lineage and power. One mainstream historical fact is the importance of dreams in Aztec culture. Like the Egyptians, they believed dreams were a conduit to the gods and the spirit world. So, a dream interpreter, a tonomo pukwai, would have been a crucial member of your entourage. Your nighttime visions, perhaps of jaguars, eagles, or serpents, all powerful symbols in Aztec cosmology, would be carefully recounted and analyzed for their divine messages. The fate of battles, the success of harvests, the very stability of the empire could hinge on these interpretations. Security, as always for a ruler, was a major concern. Tenochtitlan was a secure city by its very geography, an island fortress. But within your palace, elite guards, perhaps jaguar or eagle warriors, would stand watch. The silence of the night would be punctuated by the calls of nocturnal animals from your menagerie, a constant reminder of the natural world's power, a world you were believed to have a special connection with. You're not just protecting a man, you're protecting the linchpin between the human world and the cosmos. There's also the element of sacrifice, which, while often sensationalized, was a deeply ingrained part of Aztec religious practice, believed to keep the cosmos in balance and the sun rising. While you wouldn't be performing sacrifices in your bedchamber, the knowledge that these rituals were being conducted, even at night, to ensure the well-being of your empire would have been a constant undercurrent. It adds a rather grim layer to the idea of sleeping soundly, knowing your kingdom is safe. So as you finally settle down, perhaps after your frothy, spicy cacao nightcap, surrounded by the symbols of your power and the scent of sacred incense, your mind is likely a whirlwind. Are the gods pleased? What do these strange omens mean? Will the sun rise again tomorrow? A very literal concern in Aztec belief. Your sleep is not just rest, it's a state of heightened spiritual receptivity, a vulnerable moment where the gods might choose to whisper their secrets or their warnings. And outside your walls, the vast, complex city of Tenochtitlan dreams its own collective dreams, unaware of the seismic shifts on the horizon. Let us now shift our gaze to the sprawling Achaemenid Empire of Persia around the late 6th or early 5th century BCE. You are Darius I, also known as Darius the Great, a ruler renowned for his administrative genius, his vast construction projects like Persepolis, and for organizing an empire that stretched from the Indus Valley to southeastern Europe. A man of such immense responsibility, ruling over diverse peoples and vast territories, would undoubtedly have had specific ways of seeking guidance and ensuring a peaceful, or at least a productive, night's rest. As twilight descends upon one of your grand capitals, perhaps Susa or Persepolis, the intricate relief carvings on the palace walls depicting emissaries from every corner of your empire seem to soften in the fading light. The sounds of a busy imperial center, the clatter of chariots, the murmur of many languages, the hammers of artisans, gradually give way to a more subdued, nocturnal rhythm. You, Darius, are not just a conqueror, you are an organizer, a lawgiver, a king who prides himself on order and divine mandate, primarily through the grace of Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of Zoroastrianism. Your pre-sleep rituals would likely reflect this emphasis on order, piety, and the seeking of wisdom. While perhaps not as overtly theatrical as Caligula's lunar chats, or as laden with alchemical anxiety as Qin Shi Huang's, your nights would still be imbued with a sense of sacred duty. Before retiring to your royal bedchamber, a space undoubtedly adorned with rich median carpets, elaborate tapestries and perhaps cedarwood panels from Lebanon, you might engage in prayers or recitations from Zoroastrian texts, reaffirming your commitment to Asher, truth and righteousness, and opposing Druj, the lie, chaos. This wasn't just a perfunctory nod to religion, it was a core tenet of your rule and legitimacy, a fascinating, though perhaps less solidly documented aspect of a Persian king's night could involve the use of specific objects or substances to influence dreams, particularly for prophetic purposes. This brings us to the idea of oracle pillows. While we don't have explicit user manuals for Darius's bedding, the ancient Near East had a rich tradition of dream incubation, actively seeking divine messages through dreams, often by sleeping in sacred places or with sacred objects. It's conceivable that you, as king, might have had special herbs, relics, or perhaps even small inscribed clay tablets placed under your headrest or pillow. Historians still argue about the exact nature and prevalence of such practices at the highest levels, but the cultural context makes it plausible. Imagine a small silken pouch containing aromatic herbs known for inducing vivid dreams, or a smooth stone from a sacred site, all intended to open a clearer channel to Ahura Mazda or other beneficent spirits. It's like a divine Wi-Fi booster for your subconscious. Your evening meal would have been lavish, showcasing the bounty of the empire, exotic fruits, roasted meats, fine wines, though Zoroastrianism generally preached moderation. But even this could be tied to ritual, with specific foods perhaps consumed to honor certain deities or to achieve a particular state of mental clarity. After dinner, you might consult with your magi, the wise Zoroastrian priests who were skilled in astronomy, divination, and dream interpretation. They wouldn't just be telling you if you were going to have a good hair day, they'd be analyzing celestial movements, interpreting omens, and, crucially, helping you understand any significant dreams you might have had the previous night or preparing you to receive important ones. The constellation of the pleading vizier is looking a bit stressed tonight, great king. Perhaps sign those tax reforms before bed. One mainstream historical fact is Darius's heavy reliance on a sophisticated intelligence network and a system of king's eyes and ears, inspectors who roamed the empire. While this speaks to his administrative acumen, it also hints at a mind constantly processing information, a mind that might seek divine clarification or foresight during the night for the complex decisions he faced daily. His famous Behistun inscription, a massive rock relief detailing his rise to power, emphasizes how Ahura Mazda bore him aid. He genuinely believed in this divine support, and seeking it through dreams would be a natural extension. Security for the King of Kings was paramount. The Immortals, your elite royal guard of 10,000 hand-picked warriors, were legendary. A contingent of these formidable soldiers would have secured your palace and personal quarters with unwavering vigilance. The intricate layout of Persian palaces, with their many courtyards and columned halls, also lent themselves to controlled access and strategic defense. You're not just tucking in for the night, you're the central pillar of a vast, multi-ethnic empire. If you fall, chaos, druj, threatens. A quirky tidbit could be the specific protocols for waking the king. Given the importance of dreams, if you were known to be in a prophetic sleep, attendants would be under strict orders not to disturb you unless absolutely necessary. There might even have been specific rituals for gently rousing you to ensure the dream message wasn't lost or muddled. Imagine a very nervous servant needing to deliver urgent news, hovering outside your chamber, desperately hoping you're not in the middle of a divine download about the Scythian campaign. He's dreaming about a winged bull again. That means another hour at least. The Median delegation will just have to wait. So, as you, Darius, finally recline, perhaps on a bed raised on a low platform, the vast silence of the Persian night around you, your mind isn't just processing the day's events, it's actively reaching out, seeking cosmic validation for your rule, wisdom for your decisions, and protection for your empire. The weight of truth and order rests heavily, and the night is a crucial period for ensuring their continued reign, with a little help from Ahura Mazda and maybe a well-chosen pillow. We journey south now, to the Indian subcontinent, specifically to the Mauryan Empire in the 3rd century BCE. You are Ashoka the Great, a ruler whose story is one of dramatic transformation. Initially a fierce conqueror, much like his grandfather Chandragupta, Ashoka experienced a profound change of heart after the bloody Kalinga War. He embraced Buddhism, renounced aggressive warfare, and dedicated his reign to Dharma, a concept encompassing duty, righteousness, and non-violence. This profound shift would have undoubtedly reshaped not just his policies, but his personal life, including his night rituals. As evening prayers and the scent of sandalwood incense drift from monasteries and homes across Pataliputra, your bustling capital on the Ganges, you, Ashoka, prepare for a night that is less about divine prophecy or imperial paranoia and more about cultivating inner peace and reflecting on your duties as a righteous king. The opulence of the Mauryan court, which Greek ambassador Megasthenes described with awe, would still surround you, but its focus, and yours, has subtly shifted. Your bedchamber, while comfortable and secure, is perhaps less a display of raw power and more a space for contemplation. After your conversion to Buddhism, your pre-sleep routine likely involved practices aimed at calming the mind and fostering compassion. Meditation, the cornerstone of Buddhist practice, would almost certainly have been part of your evening. Imagine yourself, the mighty emperor who once commanded vast armies, now sitting quietly, perhaps on a simple mat, focusing on your breath, observing your thoughts without judgment, and cultivating mindfulness. This isn't about receiving messages from gods in the same way a pharaoh or an Aztec Tlatoani might. It's about understanding the nature of suffering and the path to enlightenment for yourself and for your people. A quirky tidbit might be that you, once a keen hunter, now found your evening entertainment not in lavish banquets or martial displays, but perhaps in listening to Buddhist monks recite sutras or engaging in philosophical discussions with them. The roar of the crowd replaced by the murmur of wisdom. Your Majesty, tonight's discourse will be on the impermanence of chariot wheels, riveting stuff. One mainstream historical fact is Ashoka's famous edicts, inscribed on pillars and rocks throughout the empire, promoting dharma, religious tolerance, social welfare, including medical facilities for humans and animals, and respect for all life. Your knights, therefore, might have involved reviewing these edicts, considering new ways to implement them, or reflecting on their impact. Instead of dreaming of conquest, you might be pondering how to improve road conditions for pilgrims, or ensure fair treatment for your officials. It's a different kind of imperial burden, one focused on moral governance. Historians still argue about the depth and exact nature of Ashoka's personal Buddhist practice versus its political utility in unifying a diverse empire, but the sincerity reflected in his edicts suggests a genuine internal shift. Your evening meal would likely have become simpler, perhaps largely vegetarian, in line with Buddhist principles of ahimsa, non-harming. The lavish feasts of your predecessors might have given way to more modest fare. While you were still an emperor, with all the attendant responsibilities and the need to project a certain authority, the emphasis would have shifted from ostentation to ethical living. Your nightcap wouldn't be a divine cacao or a mercury-laced elixir, but perhaps just a simple cup of water or herbal infusion. Security, of course, remained essential. Even a benevolent Buddhist emperor had enemies, and the Mauryan Empire was a vast and complex entity. Your personal guards would still be highly trained and loyal, ensuring your safety through the night. However, the feeling within the palace might have changed. Less an atmosphere of constant fear of assassination, though that threat always lingered for any ruler, and more one of orderly, peaceful administration. The guards are there not just to protect a king, but to protect a symbol of Dharma. The concept of dreams in Buddhist thought is complex. While not typically seen as direct messages from a creator god, dreams can be viewed as reflections of the mind state, karmic imprints, or even encounters with other beings in different realms. You, Ashoka, might have discussed significant dreams with learned monks, not for prophecy in the old sense, but for insights into your own spiritual progress or potential obstacles. "I dreamt I was chasing a deer, venerable sir, but then I stopped and offered it a mango. Is this progress, or do I just need more fruit in my diet?" The overall ambiance of your nighttime routine would be one of seeking tranquility and wisdom. Perhaps you would listen to soft music, not the boisterous tunes of a victory celebration, but calming melodies played on a veena or flute. You might read or have read to you texts on philosophy or ethics. The goal is not to gear up for a spiritual battle or a divine chat, but to quiet the internal clamor, to prepare for a sleep that ideally leads to a more awakened state, both literally and figuratively, the next day. So as you, Ashoka, finally lay down, perhaps on a comfortable but not overly ostentatious bed, the sounds of the city of Pataliputra a distant hum, your mind is not wrestling with immortality quests or celestial conversations. It's settling like dust in a still room, reflecting on the Dharma, on the welfare of all beings. Your sleep is not a journey into a perilous underworld, but a necessary rest for a mind dedicated to building a kingdom of righteousness. The most powerful man in India, seeking not to conquer the world, but to conquer himself, one mindful evening at a time. Let's steer our temporal vessel back westward, towards the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization. But we're stopping a bit earlier than Darius in the 18th century BCE. You are Hammurabi, king of Babylon, a ruler whose name is virtually synonymous with one thing: law. The famous Code of Hammurabi, inscribed on a towering diorite stele, wasn't just a set of rules. It was a declaration of his divinely ordained role as a shepherd of his people, a king of justice. So how does a king obsessed with order and divine justice prepare for his nightly rest? As the Mesopotamian sun, a relentless orb for much of the year, finally dips below the horizon, casting long shadows from the ziggurat of Marduk, Babylon's patron god, a different kind of order settles over the bustling city. The clamor of the markets, the creak of irrigation wheels, the chatter in Akkadian tongues begins to subside. You, Hammurabi, have spent your day dealing with petitioners, overseeing vast public works, perhaps planning military campaigns, and, of course, ensuring your laws are understood and enforced. Your nights are unlikely to be about wild abandon. They are an extension of your commitment to Misharam, justice, and Kittim, truth. Your royal bedchamber, situated within the heavily fortified palace complex, would be a testament to Babylonian artistry: glazed bricks, intricate reliefs, and fine textiles. But the most significant decoration might be an intangible one: the weight of the law. Before sleep, it's highly plausible that you engaged in rituals designed to reaffirm your connection to the gods of justice, particularly Shamash, the sun god, who was also the god of justice and divination, and from whom you claim to receive your laws. This might involve prayers, libations, or the burning of specific incense known to be pleasing to these deities. It's about ensuring the divine pipeline of justice remains clear. Oh, Shamash, grant me wisdom and perhaps a hint on how to deal with that guy who sold a shoddy ox. The man's a menace. A unique aspect of your pre-sleep routine, and this is where your law-centric persona really shines, could have involved the recitation of legal texts or specific incantations related to justice and order. While we don't have direct evidence of Hammurabi being read his own top 282 hits before bed, the oral tradition was strong, and the solemn recitation of laws or hymns praising justice could have served multiple purposes: a meditative focus, a reminder of your responsibilities, and a way to symbolically extend the rule of law even into the realm of night and dreams. Historians still argue about the literacy rates in Babylon, even among the elite, but key legal principles or summaries could certainly have been part of such a ritual. Imagine a priest or a trusted scribe chanting, "If a man builds a house shoddily and it collapses, he shall be put to death. Sweet dreams, O king." It's a rather stark lullaby, but very on-brand. One mainstream historical fact is the deep Babylonian belief in omens, divination, and the power of dreams. Hepatoscopy, inspecting animal livers, was a major form of divination, but dream interpretation was also crucial. Your dreams as king wouldn't be seen as random firings of neurons, but as potential messages from the gods about the state of the kingdom, impending threats, or the justice of your decrees. Therefore, like other ancient rulers, you would have had skilled dream interpreters on staff. They wouldn't just be looking for generic good or bad signs. They'd be looking for dream symbolism that related specifically to legal matters, social order, or divine approval of your judgments. You dreamt of a perfectly balanced scale, great king. Excellent, the gods approve of yesterday's ruling on the disputed barley field. Or you might just need a new set of scales for the granary. The quirky tidbit relates to the Mesopotamian concern with demons and malevolent spirits, particularly those that might attack during the vulnerable state of sleep. Your bedchamber would have been protected by apotropaic rituals and objects, perhaps Lamassu figures, human-headed winged bulls or lions, guarding the entrances or incantations inscribed on clay tablets placed near your bed. You might even wear specific amulets designed to ward off Lilu, male demons, or Lilitu, female demons, often associated with a figure similar to Lilith. It's not just assassins you're worried about, it's supernatural home invaders. Your evening meal would be fit for a powerful king. Mesopotamian cuisine, while diverse, had its staples: barley bread, dates, beer, a lot of beer actually, it was a dietary cornerstone, fish from the Euphrates, and various meats. The rituals surrounding food could also tie into ensuring prosperity and order for the land. The security around you would be tight. Babylonian palaces were fortresses, and your personal guards, likely drawn from loyal contingents of your army, would ensure no earthly harm came to the king who held the divine mandate for justice. So as you, Hammurabi, finally lie down perhaps on a bed with a woven reed mattress and woolen coverings, the sounds of Babylon, the distant barking of dogs, the watchman's calls, filtering in your mind, is likely still sifting through legal cases, administrative challenges, and divine pronouncements. Your sleep is not an escape from responsibility, but a temporary recess for the ultimate judge. You're hoping for dreams that confirm your righteousness, that offer guidance, and that the protective spells hold firm against whatever lurks in the Mesopotamian night. Because tomorrow, the sun god Shamash will rise again, and with him, the expectation of unwavering justice from his chosen king. And you really don't want to misinterpret a dream about a goat eating a legal document. The paperwork alone would be a nightmare. Our journey now takes us high into the Andes Mountains of South America, to the heart of the Inca Empire, known as Tawantinsuyu, the Four Regions, sometime in the 15th or early 16th century. You are the Sapa Inca, the only Inca, the living son of Inti, the sun god. You're not just a ruler, you're a divine being, the axis around which your vast and meticulously organized empire revolves. Your nights, therefore, are not merely for rest, but are a continuation of your sacred connection to the cosmos, particularly to your celestial father. As the Andean sun, a dazzling disk at this altitude, begins to dip behind the snow-capped peaks, casting an ethereal golden glow over your capital city of Cusco, the navel of the world, a reverent hush falls. The bustling sounds of stonemasons perfectly fitting massive, polygonal blocks, the calls of llama herders, the chanting of priests at the Coricancha, the temple of the sun, all soften. You, the Sapa Inca, prepare for your nightly retreat into a space that is both a sanctuary and a direct conduit to the divine. Your bedchamber, located within your heavily guarded palace complex, each Sapa Inca built his own magnificent palace, which became his mausoleum after death, would be a space of extraordinary, though perhaps to European eyes, stark opulence. The Inca prized gold not for its monetary value in the way other cultures did, but for its sacred association with Inti, the sun. Your chamber might be adorned with sheets of beaten gold, reflecting the lamplight like a miniature sun, gold vessels, gold ornaments, perhaps even gold threads, woven into your exquisite vicuña wool tapestries and blankets. It's not about bling, it's about being constantly bathed in the essence of your divine parentage. This is your golden cocoon, a space designed to amplify your solar connection even in the darkness of night. Before sleep, purification rituals would be paramount. You might bathe in a specially prepared bath, perhaps with water from a sacred spring scented with native herbs like munya or cantu flowers. Attendants, always of high, noble birth, would assist you with profound reverence. You would then be dressed in the finest kumbi cloth woven from vicuña wool by Aklas, chosen women, so soft it was said to feel like silk. Every item that touched your sacred person was imbued with significance. One quirky tidbit is that everything you touched, your clothes, leftover food, even strands of your hair, was considered sacred, waka, and was carefully collected and stored to be ritually burned once a year. This prevented anything associated with your divine essence from falling into the wrong hands or being desecrated. Imagine your laundry basket being treated like a holy relic. Don't just toss the Sapa Inca's socks in the hamper. They need to be archived with reverence. Your evening meal would be a showcase of the empire's diverse bounty. Potatoes, hundreds of varieties, quinoa, maize, llama or alpaca meat, fresh fish rushed up from the coast by swift chowski runners, and of course, chicha, a fermented maize beer, which played a significant role in Incan ritual life. Consumption would be moderate, ensuring your mind remained clear for any divine communion. Historians still argue about the exact nature of the Sapa Inca's nightly communion. Was it meditative, dream-based, or did it involve specific rituals performed by priests in his presence? Regardless, the aim was to maintain that vital link to Inti and other deities like Viracocha, the creator god, and Pachamama, the Earth Mother. One mainstream historical fact is the incredible organization of the Inca Empire, with its vast road system, storehouses, kolkas, and detailed census records kept on quipus, knotted strings. Such an ordered empire required an ordered mind at its center. Your nights might involve reviewing these reports, not by reading scrolls, but perhaps by having quipucamayok's, quipu keepers, summarize key information. Or you might simply meditate on the well-being of the four regions, sending your divine energy outwards to maintain harmony. Dreams were, of course, significant. As the son of the sun, your dreams were not mere trifles. They could be portents for the entire empire. Interpreters, likely high priests, skilled in understanding the complex Incan cosmology, would be on hand to decipher any nocturnal visions. Did you dream of a healthy crop of maize? Good tidings? A dark sun? A cause for great concern and immediate appeasement rituals. The responsibility to dream well for your people was immense. Last night I dreamt a condor taught me to yodel. What does it mean for the potato harvest in Chinchaysuyu, wise one? Security for the Sapa Inca was absolute. His palace was a fortress, guarded by his most loyal warriors, often from his own kin group or from ethnic groups known for their fierce loyalty. No unauthorized person would ever come near the divine ruler, especially during the vulnerable hours of sleep. The very air around you was considered sacred space. The silence of your golden chamber would be profound, broken only perhaps by the distant whisper of the Andean wind or the soft rustling of your attendants. So as you, the Sapa Inca, finally recline on your platform bed, covered in the finest textiles and surrounded by the gleam of sacred gold, you're not just going to sleep. You're entering a state of heightened spiritual connection, a nightly pilgrimage back to your solar father. Your breath is the breath of the empire. Your peace is the peace of the Andes. You are the golden thread that binds heaven and earth, and even in sleep, your divine duty continues. Let's hope the gold isn't too cold to snuggle into. Let us now venture south of Egypt, down the Nile, into the lands of Nubia, specifically to the Kingdom of Kush and its later capital, Meroe, a powerful civilization that flourished for centuries, even conquering Egypt itself during its 25th dynasty. We are focusing on the period when Meroe was a thriving ironworking center and a major trade hub, roughly between 300 BCE and 300 CE. You are a Kandake, or Candace, the Latinized version, one of the formidable queen mothers, ruling queens, or queen regents of Meroe. These were powerful women who often governed in their own right, commanded armies, and held immense religious authority. Your nights are not just about personal rest, they're about safeguarding a kingdom and maintaining the divine order personified by a female ruler. As the African sun sets over the savannah and the pyramids of Meroe, distinctively steep and slender compared to their Egyptian counterparts, cast long, sharp shadows, a different kind of energy suffuses your royal city. The sounds of iron forges, the chatter of merchants trading exotic goods like ivory, ebony, and animal skins, the hymns to the lion-headed god Apedamak, all begin to fade. You, Kandake, a regent of power and sacred authority, prepare for a night where vigilance and spiritual connection are paramount. Your bedchamber within the royal palace complex, which archaeologists are still uncovering, revealing unique Meroitic architecture influenced by both pharaonic Egyptian and sub-Saharan African traditions, would be a space of regal comfort and symbolic power. It might be adorned with painted frescoes depicting scenes of Meroitic life, royal triumphs, or deities. Furnishings could include intricately carved wooden beds with woven fiber mattresses and fine cotton or linen textiles, perhaps dyed in vibrant colors. The air might be scented with local resins or incense, different from the frankincense and myrrh further north, perhaps something derived from acacia or other native plants. A crucial aspect of your night could revolve around what we might call starlit guardians. The Meroites were keen observers of the heavens, and their religion was rich with astral symbolism. Apedamak, a principal Meroitic deity, was sometimes associated with stars or constellations. It's plausible that your pre-sleep rituals or even the orientation of your sleeping chamber were aligned with specific celestial events or bodies considered protective or empowering for a ruling queen. Historians still argue about the specifics of Meroitic astronomy and its direct application to royal nightly routines, but the general importance of the cosmos in their worldview is clear. Imagine priests or priestesses conducting quiet rites to invoke the protection of these celestial guardians, ensuring no malevolent influence, astral or earthly, disturbs your royal slumber. The Lion constellation is particularly bright tonight, Great Queen. Apedamak watches over your rest. Another form of guardian could have been more literal. The Meroites revered lions as symbols of royalty and power. While you probably didn't have a live lion padding around your bedroom, though who knows, stranger royal pets have existed, motifs of lions would have been everywhere on jewelry, reliefs and furniture, serving as constant apotropaic symbols. Perhaps there was a belief that the spirits of these powerful animals guarded the Kandake at night. One quirky tidbit is the prominent role of women in Meroitic society, far more so than in many contemporary cultures. Kandakes often ruled independently or alongside their sons, commanded armies, and were depicted in art as strong, imposing figures. Your night rituals might therefore include elements specifically celebrating female power and lineage, perhaps invoking ancestral queen spirits for guidance and protection. Before sleep, you might consult with priests or priestesses of the local deities like Apedamak or the Egyptian-derived Isis and Amun, who were also worshipped in Kush. These consultations wouldn't just be about interpreting dreams, though that was likely important too, but about ensuring the overall spiritual well-being of the kingdom and your continued favor with the gods. Offerings would be made, prayers recited. One mainstream historical fact is the existence of a unique Meroitic script, still only partially deciphered. It's tantalizing to think what texts, hymns, prayers, or royal chronicles might have been read or recited in your presence before you retired. Security for a Kandake would be robust. Meroe was often in conflict with its neighbors, including Roman Egypt to the north and various desert tribes. Your palace guards would be elite warriors, fiercely loyal to their queen. The layout of the royal enclosure at Meroe suggests a concern for defense and controlled access. You're not just a ruler, you're the embodiment of Kushite sovereignty, a tradition stretching back centuries. Your evening might also involve reviewing reports from trade caravans or military commanders. Meroe controlled vital trade routes, and its wealth depended on this commerce. Staying informed was crucial. You might also be involved in planning construction projects, as the Kandakes were known for their building activities, including temples and palaces. Sleep for you is not an escape from these duties, but a necessary pause to recharge your formidable energies. So as you, Kandake, finally recline, perhaps on a bed adorned with symbols of your power and divine favor, the sounds of the African night around you, the distant roar of a real lion, the chirping of insects, the whisper of the wind across the savannah. You're enveloped by a sense of ancient authority and resilience. Your dreams might be of victorious battles, prosperous trade, or conversations with the powerful gods of Kush. You're a link in a long chain of formidable female rulers, and even in the quiet of your chamber, your strength and wisdom guard your kingdom. Let's hope the celestial lions are doing their job well. We now find ourselves in the opulent heart of the Ottoman Empire in 16th century Constantinople, or, as it's increasingly known, Istanbul. You are Suleiman the Magnificent, the 10th and longest reigning sultan, a period considered the zenith of Ottoman power, artistic achievement, and legal reform. Your knights, as the absolute ruler of a vast empire stretching across 3 continents, are a complex interplay of unimaginable luxury, ever-present political intrigue, and the profound responsibilities of a caliph, the leader of the Islamic world. As the muezzin's call to evening prayer, the Isha, echoes across the minarets of the Hagia Sophia and the newly constructed Suleymaniye Mosque, your grand project, a sense of structured calm descends upon the Topkapi Palace. This sprawling complex, a city within a city, is the nerve center of your empire, and your private chambers within the harem are its most fiercely guarded sanctum. You, Suleiman, renowned for your poetic talents under the pen name Muhibbi, lover, as much as your military prowess, prepare for a night that is as much about maintaining absolute control as it is about finding personal solace. Your bedchamber, deep within the secluded harem, is a masterpiece of Ottoman design. Iznik tiles with their vibrant floral patterns in blues, turquoises, and reds adorn the walls. Intricate mother-of-pearl inlay decorates wooden furniture. Rich silk brocades from Bursa and velvets from Italy cover divans and cushions. The air is perfumed with ambergris, musk, or rosewater, yet beneath this veneer of sensuous luxury lies an undercurrent of constant vigilance. One truly quirky and ingenious tidbit about your nocturnal security is the rumored existence of whispering walls or listening tubes. These were supposedly secret acoustic channels built into the walls, allowing you or your most trusted eunuch guards to overhear conversations in adjacent rooms or corridors. Historians still argue about the extent and effectiveness of such systems, but the paranoia of high-stakes court politics makes such innovations entirely plausible. It's like having a 16th century bugging system, ensuring no conspiracy goes unheard, even in the dead of night. Did you hear that? I think the third cook is plotting to use too much saffron in the morning pilaf. Treasonous. Before retiring, you would likely engage in private prayer and contemplation. As caliph, your religious duties were paramount. You might read from the Quran or discuss theological points with learned scholars from your court. Your evenings might also involve poetry, reading the works of others, or perhaps composing your own verses reflecting on love, power, or the transience of life. This intellectual and artistic side of your nature provided a counterpoint to the harsh realities of imperial rule. One mainstream historical fact is Suleiman's deep love for his wife, Hurrem Sultan Roxolana, a former slave girl who rose to become his legal wife and a woman of immense political influence. Your late evenings might involve conversations with her, discussing not just personal matters but affairs of state, as she was one of your closest confidants. The harem itself, often sensationalized in the West, was a complex imperial institution, your household, and the place where future generations of the dynasty were raised. Its intricate rules and hierarchies were all designed to support and protect the Sultan. Your passage to your bedchamber would be through corridors guarded by the Kapa, chief white eunuch, and his retinue, and then within the harem proper by the Kızlar, chief black eunuch, and his formidable corps of harem guards. Every sound, every shadow would be noted. Security was not just about listening tubes and eunuch guards. Your food and drink would be meticulously prepared and tasted to prevent poisoning, a constant fear for rulers of the era. Your sleeping garments, made of the finest silks or linens, would be fresh each night. Your bed, likely a raised platform covered with luxurious mattresses and bolsters, might even have a canopy of heavy brocade, not just for grandeur but also offering a sliver of extra protection or privacy. Even the choice of who attended you in your most private moments was a matter of intense courtly maneuvering and absolute trust. And dreams, in Islamic tradition, dreams can be a source of guidance or warning. As Sultan and Caliph, your dreams would be considered particularly significant. You would likely have dream interpreters among your religious advisors, individuals skilled in Tabir al-Ruya, Islamic dream interpretation. A dream of a white horse might signify victory, while a dream of a falling star could be an ill omen. These interpretations could influence policy, or at least your mood for the coming day. I dreamt I was composing a ghazal with a talking nightingale, Imam Effendi. Does this mean a flourishing of the arts, or should I just stick to prose for a while? So, as you, Suleiman, finally settle into your magnificent bed, surrounded by the silent, watchful harem, the vast Ottoman Empire outside your walls continues its nocturnal hum. The Janissaries patrol the city, ships lie at anchor in the Golden Horn, and across your sprawling domains, governors and pashas look to Istanbul for direction. Your mind, even in the pre-sleep quiet, is likely a tapestry of strategic calculations, poetic musings, and the subtle awareness of the immense power you wield and the equally immense dangers that come with it. The whispering walls, if they existed, listen with you, guarding the heart of an empire at its dazzling, dangerous peak. Let's journey back eastward to an earlier time and a more enigmatic figure. We arrive in ancient Japan during the Yayoi period, likely in the late 2nd or early 3rd century CE. You are Himiko, or Pimiko, the mysterious queen of Yamatai Koku, a powerful kingdom mentioned in Chinese historical texts, like the records of the Three Kingdoms. What makes Himiko particularly intriguing is that she was not just a political ruler but also a shamaness, said to occupy herself with magic and sorcery, bewitching the people. Her nights, therefore, would be deeply intertwined with her spiritual duties and her role as an intermediary between her people and the kami, gods or spirits. As the sun sets over the rice paddies and wooden stilt houses of what might have been your capital in either Kyushu or the Kinai region, historians still argue passionately about Yamatai's exact location, a unique kind of quiet descends. This isn't the ordered silence of a vast bureaucratic empire, but the watchful hush of a community deeply attuned to the rhythms of nature and the unseen world of spirits. You, Queen Himiko, a figure of immense religious and political authority, rarely seen in public, prepare for a night that is less about personal comfort and more about sacred communion. Your dwelling, perhaps a larger, more elaborate version of the raised floor structures common in Yayoi Japan, would be secluded, possibly within a sacred precinct. It wouldn't boast the stone grandeur of Rome or Persepolis, but its power would lie in its spiritual significance. The materials would be natural: wood, thatch, woven mats. The air would be clean, perhaps scented with the smoke from purifying fires or the subtle fragrance of native blossoms. One quirky tidbit from the Chinese chronicles is that after Himiko became ruler, few people saw her face. She was attended by 1,000 women, and only one man, her younger brother, acted as her intermediary for communicating with the outside world and serving her food and drink. This seclusion speaks volumes about the sacred, almost untouchable aura cultivated around her. Imagine your entire social life consisting of 1,000 female attendants and your brother bringing you snacks. More rice balls, sis. The delegation from Wei is getting restless. Your pre-sleep rituals would be centered on purification and preparation for spiritual engagement. Shinto, the indigenous religion of Japan, places great emphasis on purity, kegare versus harai. You would likely perform mythology ritual ablutions with water, perhaps at a special font or natural spring within your sacred enclosure. You might don simple, clean garments, probably of hemp or bark cloth, suitable for sacred rites. The goal is to be ritually pure to approach the kami. Historians still argue about the exact nature of Himiko's magic and sorcery. Was it ecstatic shamanic journeying, complex divination rituals, or acting as an oracle? Whatever its form, it was the bedrock of her power. One mainstream historical fact, also from Chinese sources, is that Himiko was unmarried and ruled through her spiritual authority. Her nights might involve long periods of fasting, meditation, or chanting to enter a trance state, allowing her to communicate with the kami, seek their guidance on matters of state, like harvests, wars, or alliances, or convey their will to her people via her brother. This isn't about interpreting a dream after the fact. This is about actively seeking a divine encounter, a direct download from the spirit world. Her bedchamber might be more accurately described as a sacred space for these shamanic practices. The sleep of a shamaness like Himiko might not always be restful in the conventional sense. If she engaged in trance journeys, her body might be still, but her spirit was believed to be traveling to other realms. Attendants would watch over her, ensuring her physical safety and maintaining the sanctity of the space. They would be highly attuned to any signs or utterances she might make during these states. The concept of dreaming here blurs with visioning or receiving oracles. Upon returning to ordinary consciousness, her pronouncements would be treated as divine decrees. Security for Himiko would be less about guards with spears, though some physical protection was undoubtedly present, and more about maintaining her sacred isolation. The 1,000 women attendants weren't just servants, they were guardians of her ritual purity and her seclusion, forming a human shield against defilement or unauthorized intrusion. The single male intermediary controlled all access and information flow. This creates an almost impenetrable bubble of mystique and power. What about personal comforts? Yayoi period dwellings were relatively simple. You might sleep on woven straw mats, tatami precursors, with perhaps a wooden headrest similar to those found in other parts of Asia. Warmth would come from a central hearth, its smoke filtering through the thatch. The focus was not on luxury, but on spiritual efficacy. A simple meal, perhaps of rice, fish, and foraged vegetables, would be eaten before her nocturnal rituals began. It's hard to imagine her demanding late-night takeout after a long session of bewitching the people. So, as you, Queen Himiko, settle into your sacred space for the night, the sounds of the Japanese archipelago around you, the rustling of bamboo, the croaking of frogs, the distant cry of a night bird, are not just background noise. They are part of the living, breathing world of kami that you are so intimately connected to. Your night is a vigil, a spiritual quest, a direct line to the divine forces that shape the destiny of Yamatai. The fate of your kingdom rests not on armies or laws, but on your ability to navigate the unseen world and bring back its wisdom. And your brother better be taking good notes. Let us journey to Southeast Asia, to the heartland of the Khmer Empire around the early to mid-12th century. You are Suryavarman II, the king immortalized as the builder of Angkor Wat, that breathtaking temple complex which was not only a place of worship, but also his future mausoleum and a symbolic representation of the Hindu cosmos. Your knights, as a god-king deeply invested in monumental acts of devotion and statecraft, would be a blend of royal responsibility, religious piety, and perhaps architectural obsession. As the tropical sun dips below the vast Tonle Sap Lake, painting the sky in fiery hues that mirror the sandstone of your rising temples, a humid warmth settles over the sprawling city of Angkor. The daytime cacophony of construction, The chiseling of stone, the hauling of massive blocks by elephants and thousands of laborers, the chanting of Brahmin priests consecrating various stages of the work, gradually subsides. You, Suryavarman II, a ruler who unified warring factions and expanded the empire, now prepare for a night where earthly plans and divine inspiration might merge. Your royal palace, likely a magnificent wooden structure, as stone was reserved for gods and kings in death, would be located within the walled city of Angkor. It would be filled with intricate carvings, gilded surfaces, and fine silks from India and China, reflecting the wealth and cosmopolitan nature of the Khmer court. Your bedchamber would be a luxurious sanctuary, cooled by breezes flowing through open pavilions, or by attendants with large fans. The air might be scented with champaka flowers or sandalwood incense, essential for Hindu rituals. A significant part of your evening, particularly during the decades-long construction of Angkor Wat, might have involved reviewing architectural plans, or maquettes. While blueprints as we know them didn't exist, there would have been detailed drawings, models, or at least conceptual discussions with your master architects and Brahmin advisors who were experts in sacred geometry and Vastu Shastra, the traditional Hindu system of architecture. Historians still argue about the precise methods used to design and execute such a complex structure, but the king's direct involvement is highly probable. Imagine you, by lamplight, poring over palm leaf manuscripts detailing the precise alignment of galleries with celestial events, or the iconographic program for the miles of bas-reliefs depicting scenes from the Mahabharata and Ramayana. It's like doing homework for the gods on a colossal scale. No, the churning of the ocean of milk needs more devas and fewer asuras on this panel, and make sure Vishnu looks appropriately serene. This ties into the concept of dream incubation which we touched upon with Darius. Given that Angkor Wat was dedicated to Vishnu and was intended to be a heaven on earth, Vaikuntha, it's plausible that you, Suryavarman, might have engaged in practices to seek divine inspiration or approval for the temple through your dreams. This could involve specific meditations, prayers to Vishnu, or even sleeping in a consecrated part of the palace or a temporary shrine, hoping for a vision that would guide the temple's construction or confirm its sacred efficacy. One quirky tidbit is the sheer audacity of Angkor Wat. It's the largest religious monument in the world. Such a monumental undertaking almost demands a degree of divine communication, or at least a very confident king who believes he's channeling it. One mainstream historical fact is that Khmer kings were considered Devarajas, or god kings. Your nightly rituals would reinforce this divine status. This would include prayers and offerings, perhaps performed with the assistance of your Brahmin Purohitas, chief priests. Lustration or ritual bathing would be important, using sacred water perhaps perfumed with jasmine. You would be adorned in fine silks and gold jewelry, even in the privacy of your chambers, because you were always, to some extent, on duty as a divine being. Security for the Devaraja was, of course, critical. The Khmer Empire faced external threats and internal rivalries. Your palace would be heavily guarded by elite troops, perhaps the royal bodyguard depicted in the bas-reliefs, armed with spears and shields. The layout of Angkor, with its massive reservoirs, berets, and defensive walls, also contributed to the capital's security. You're not just protecting a man, you are protecting the divine intermediary, whose well-being ensures the prosperity and cosmic order of the kingdom. Your evening meal would be a lavish affair, featuring rice, freshwater fish from the Tonle Sap, tropical fruits and curries reflecting the rich agricultural bounty of the region, all managed by the complex hydraulic engineering system you oversaw. Entertainment might include court dancers performing scenes from Hindu epics, their graceful movements perhaps even inspiring the sculptors working on the temple reliefs. So as you, Suryavarman II, finally recline, perhaps on a high wooden bed with silk cushions, the sounds of the tropical night, the chirping of geckos, the distant calls of exotic birds, the rustling of palm leaves, fill the air. Your mind is likely abuzz with the monumental task of building your personal mountain temple to Vishnu. You're weighing architectural decisions, military strategies and matters of state, all while hoping for a sign, a dream, a whisper of divine approval from the god you're so spectacularly honoring. The stones of Angkor Wat are rising, block by painstaking block, a testament to your ambition, your piety, and perhaps a few divinely inspired all-nighters spent with the blueprints. Let us now travel to West Africa, to the vibrant and incredibly wealthy Mali Empire during the early 14th century. You are Mansa Musa I, arguably the most famous of the Malian emperors, whose lavish Hajj, pilgrimage to Mecca, in 1324 to 1325 quite literally put Mali on the medieval map, astounding onlookers with its sheer display of gold. Your knights, as the ruler of a vast Islamic empire renowned for its scholarship, trade, and of course its staggering wealth, would be a fascinating blend of Islamic piety, royal grandeur, and unique West African traditions. As the Saharan sun, which blazes over the Sahelian landscape for much of the day, begins its descent, casting long, cool shadows over your capital city, likely Niani, though its exact location is still debated by archaeologists, a sense of peace settles. The daytime bustle of the markets filled with merchants trading salt, gold, slaves, and kola nuts. The sounds of students at the Sankore Mosque, and university in Timbuktu, a key center of learning under your patronage. The rhythmic work of artisans all begin to quiet. You, Mansa Musa, a devout Muslim and a ruler of immense global standing, prepare for a night that reflects both your faith and your imperial majesty. Your palace, described by contemporary Arab travelers like Al-Umari, based on accounts from those who met Mansa Musa in Cairo, as an impressive structure with domes, audience chambers, and fine decorations, would be your sanctuary. Within its walls, your bedchamber would be a space of comfort and security, likely furnished with rich carpets, cushions, and textiles, acquired through trans-Saharan trade or crafted by skilled local artisans. The air might be scented with African incense or perfumes. A particularly charming and culturally significant aspect of your pre-sleep routine could involve the presence of royal griots, jali or jelly. Griots are West African historians, storytellers, poets and musicians, oral traditionalists who preserve and recite genealogies, histories and praise songs. It's highly conceivable that you, Mansa Musa, would have had your personal griot in attendance during the evening. Historians still argue about the daily minutiae of the Mansa's private life, but the griot's role was central to Mande culture. Imagine, instead of a court jester or a lute player, you have a master orator and musician, perhaps playing the kora, a harp lute, or balafon, a xylophone-like instrument, reciting the epic deeds of your ancestor, Sundiata, the founder of the Mali Empire, or singing soothing songs designed to praise your lineage and ensure a peaceful imperial slumber. It's like having a living, breathing, and incredibly talented historical podcast lull you to sleep. And then, oh great Mansa, your great-great-grandfather, the Lion King Sundiata, declared, but perhaps that's a tale for after you've had your mint tea. One mainstream historical fact is Mansa Musa's devout Islamic faith. Your nights would undoubtedly include the prescribed Islamic prayers, Salat al-Maghrib, sunset prayer, and Salat al-Isha, night prayer. You might spend time in private dhikr, remembrance of God, perhaps reciting Quranic verses or contemplating religious texts. Your famous Hajj demonstrated your commitment to Islam, and this piety would permeate your daily life, including your evenings. You might consult with Islamic scholars from Timbuktu or visiting dignitaries on matters of theology or Islamic law, Sharia, which you worked to implement more widely in your empire. A quirky tidbit related to Mansa Musa's wealth is the sheer amount of gold he distributed during his Hajj, so much so that it reportedly depressed the price of gold in Cairo for over a decade. While this speaks to Mali's immense resources, it also hints at a ruler who understood the power of spectacle and generosity. Your evenings might involve reviewing accounts from your treasuries or planning further acts of patronage For mosques, schools, or charitable causes, sleep for you might be a brief respite from managing an economy literally dripping in gold. Security for the Mansa would be a serious affair. The Mali Empire was vast, encompassing many different ethnic groups and regions. Your palace guards would be elite, loyal warriors, perhaps drawn from specific military corps or trusted lineages. The descriptions of your public audiences, where petitioners approached with great deference, sometimes dusting themselves as a sign of humility, suggest a well-established court protocol designed to protect the Mansa and emphasize his supreme authority. You're not just a king, you're the guardian of a golden age. Your evening meal would reflect the bounty of the Sahel and the trans-Saharan trade routes, grains like sorghum and millet, rice, beef or lamb, dried fruits and honey. You would likely dine with close advisors or family members, though court etiquette would be strictly observed. After your meal, and perhaps your session with the griots, you would retire. Your dreams as a powerful Muslim ruler would be taken seriously. While Islamic dream interpretation is nuanced, significant dreams could be seen as messages or warnings. You would likely discuss any such dreams with trusted religious counselors. I dreamt of a river of gold flowing towards Mecca, Imam. Does this mean I should plan another, even more spectacular Hajj? So as you, Mansa Musa, finally recline, perhaps on a raised bed covered with fine cotton or leather, the sounds of the West African night, the chirping of crickets, the distant drumming from a village celebration, the soft strumming of a kora from a nearby courtyard create a unique soundscape. Your mind is filled with the responsibilities of ruling a wealthy, influential Islamic empire, the echoes of your griot's praises, and the quiet hum of your own faith. You are a beacon of African power and piety, and even as you sleep, your legend continues to grow, one golden night at a time. Let's return to Egypt, but to a later, very different era, the Ptolemaic kingdom, which ruled from the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE until the Roman conquest in 30 BCE. You're one of the Ptolemies, perhaps Ptolemy II Philadelphus, known for his patronage of the arts and sciences, or a later ruler grappling with internal strife and Roman encroachment. Your capital is Alexandria, a cosmopolitan marvel, home to the legendary Great Library, and the Museion, a center of scholarship that drew intellectuals from across the Hellenistic world. Your nights, as a Greek pharaoh ruling over an Egyptian populace, would be a fascinating synthesis of Greek intellectualism and ancient Egyptian traditions. As dusk settles over the glittering harbors of Alexandria, the great Pharos lighthouse beginning its nightly vigil, casting its beam far out into the Mediterranean, the city's vibrant intellectual and commercial life begins to wind down, though it never truly ceases. The chatter in Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, and a dozen other languages in the bustling marketplaces and symposia softens. You, a Ptolemaic ruler, a descendant of one of Alexander's generals now styled as a pharaoh, prepare for a night where scholarly pursuits might mingle with age-old Egyptian beliefs about sleep and dreams. Your palace complex, likely near the harbor and adjacent to the Museion and library, would be a stunning example of Hellenistic architecture infused with Egyptian motifs. Think Greek columns and peristyle courtyards, alongside sphinxes and hieroglyphic inscriptions. Your bedchamber would be opulent, filled with fine Greek furniture, Egyptian art, papyrus scrolls, and perhaps even astronomical instruments. The air might be scented with kaifi, that classic Egyptian incense we encountered with the earlier pharaohs, the incense stuck around, or perhaps with rose and myrrh favored by the Greeks. A key aspect of your Ptolemaic night, especially if you are a scholarly ruler like Ptolemy II, might involve keeping a detailed dream log, or oneirocriticon. The Greeks, like the Egyptians, placed great importance on dreams, oneiros. Artemidorus of Daldis, who lived a bit later, wrote a famous book on dream interpretation, but the practice was ancient. With the great library at your disposal, filled with texts on every conceivable subject, including divination and dream theory from various cultures, you would have access to unparalleled intellectual resources. Historians still argue about the direct influence of library scholars on the personal dream practices of the Ptolemies, but the environment was ripe for it. Imagine yourself, after waking, dictating your dreams to a scribe, not just the general gist, but specific symbols, colors, emotions. This dream log would then be analyzed, perhaps by scholars from the Mouseion or by priests trained in both Greek and Egyptian oneiromancy. Last night I dreamt I was debating Aristotle while riding a griffin through the library. The griffin kept insisting on shelving philosophy under mythical creatures. What does it mean, Callimachus? One mainstream historical fact is the Serapeum in Alexandria, a grand temple dedicated to Serapis, a syncretic Greco-Egyptian god created by the Ptolemies to unify their diverse subjects. Serapis was, among other things, associated with healing and oracles, and dream incubation was practiced at his temples. While you as ruler might not sleep at the public Serapeum, you might have a private shrine to Serapis or engage in similar incubation rituals within the palace, seeking divine guidance on matters of state, health, or dynastic succession. This blending of traditions is a hallmark of the Ptolemaic era. A quirky tidbit could be the sheer multiculturalism of your dream interpreters. You might have a Greek philosopher analyzing your dream through the lens of Platonic allegory, an Egyptian priest comparing it to the papyrus Chester Beatty III, remember our Pharaoh's dream dictionary, and maybe even a Babylonian exile offering Chaldean astrological insights. It's like a United Nations of dream analysis, all dedicated to figuring out what your royal subconscious is up to. The Egyptian says it's a good omen, the Greek says it's an unresolved Oedipal complex, and the Babylonian says I should avoid shellfish for a week. Very helpful, chaps. Security for a Ptolemaic ruler was a complex affair. The dynasty was often plagued by internal family rivalries, sibling marriages and murders were not uncommon, and popular uprisings by the native Egyptian population, not to mention the looming power of Rome. Your palace guard would consist of loyal Macedonian and Greek mercenaries, and perhaps some trusted Egyptian units. The palace itself would be a fortified compound. You are a foreign ruler in an ancient land, and while you might adopt pharaonic titles and imagery, your grip on power could often be precarious. Your evening would include a Greek-style symposium. If you were so inclined, reclining on couches, enjoying wine mixed with water in proper Greek fashion, listening to music, poetry, or philosophical debates, or you might prefer a quieter evening with scrolls from the library, catching up on the latest geographical treatise from Eratosthenes or a new edition of Homer. The intellectual stimulation available was unparalleled. So as you, a Ptolemaic pharaoh, finally recline on your Hellenistic couch or Egyptian-style bed, the sounds of Alexandria, the lapping of waves in the harbor, the distant music from a banquet, the murmur of scholars working late in the Mouseion, drift through your window. Your mind is a fusion of Greek rationality and Egyptian mysticism. You're pondering military alliances, crop yields, scholarly disputes, and the ever-present need to keep both your Greek and Egyptian subjects content. Your dream log lies ready, and you hope tonight's visions will be clear, auspicious, and perhaps, just perhaps, worthy of a footnote in a future scholarly treatise. Our final nocturnal visit takes us to Judea in the late 1st century BCE, a land simmering with political tension and religious fervor, caught between the waning power of the Hellenistic kingdoms and the rising might of Rome. You are Herod, later known as Herod the Great, the Roman-appointed king of Judea. You're a master builder responsible for lavish projects like the reconstruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem and the fortress palace of Masada. But you're also a ruler plagued by intense paranoia, familial strife, and a desperate need for legitimacy in the eyes of your often rebellious subjects. Your nights are unlikely to be peaceful. They are more likely a battleground against perceived threats, both real and imagined. As the sun sets over the limestone hills of Judea, casting long, sharp shadows from the newly renovated Temple Mount or your imposing Antonia fortress, a fragile quiet descends upon Jerusalem. The daytime sounds, the commerce, enchant, the priestly rites at the temple, the tramp of Roman patrols give way to a watchful stillness. You, Herod, a man of Idumean, Edomite, ancestry, ruling over a fiercely independent Jewish populace, Prepare for a night where elaborate security measures are as crucial as any attempt to find rest. Your bedchamber, whether in your Jerusalem palace or one of your many fortified retreats like Masada or Herodium, which you built as your own future tomb fortress, would be the epitome of secure luxury. Think thick walls, easily defensible positions, and multiple layers of guards. Herod was known for his Hellenistic tastes, so the decor would likely include mosaics, frescoes, and Roman-style furniture, but all within a framework of near impenetrable defense. One quirky, though grim, tidbit reflecting your paranoia is the sheer number of family members you had executed on suspicion of treason, including your beloved wife Mariamne and several of your sons. Your nights were likely haunted, not by spirits in the traditional sense, but by the ghosts of your own making, fueling your anxieties. Is that the wind howling, or just my executed son Aristobulus IV complaining about the subpar amenities in the afterlife? Hard to tell. Your pre-sleep routine would be dominated by security. Before you even thought of retiring, every inch of your quarters and the routes to them would be checked and double-checked by your most trusted guards, likely foreign mercenaries, Thracians, Gauls, Germans, who had no loyalty to local factions and depended solely on you for their pay. Food and drink would be tasted multiple times. Secret passages, escape routes, and strategically placed armories were characteristic of Herodian architecture. Historians still argue whether Herod's paranoia was a clinical condition or a rational response to the very real dangers he faced from internal plotters, zealot factions, and even rivals within his own sprawling, dysfunctional family. Probably a bit of both. One mainstream historical fact is Herod's complex relationship with Judaism. While he lavishly rebuilt the temple and generally respected Jewish religious observance, at least publicly, he was also seen by many as a Roman puppet and a violator of Jewish tradition. Your nights might involve attempts to find ways to appease your Jewish subjects, perhaps consulting with more compliant members of the priesthood or Sadducean aristocracy. At the same time, you'd be acutely aware of the undercurrent of resentment and the potential for revolt. What about dreams? In Jewish tradition, dreams can certainly be prophetic or divinely inspired. Think of Joseph or Daniel. Given your precarious position and your constant fear of plots, you would undoubtedly pay close attention to your dreams. Any dream that seemed to foretell danger, betrayal, or even divine displeasure would be a source of intense anxiety. You would likely have advisors, perhaps some with knowledge of Jewish dream interpretation, or even Greek or Roman diviners, to help you make sense of your nocturnal visions. The challenge would be finding an interpreter brave enough to give you bad news, given your track record with those who displeased you. You dreamt a flock of doves turned into vipers and pecked out your crown, Your Majesty. That means, you'll have a surprisingly good hair day tomorrow. Yes, that's it. Sleep itself must have been a fraught affair. How do you truly rest when you suspect everyone around you, even those in your own bed, might be plotting your demise? You might have employed specific rituals to ward off bad dreams or evil omens, perhaps drawing on Hellenistic magical practices or even trying to adapt Jewish ones, though the latter would be treading on thin ice. The ambient sounds of your fortress palace, the tramp of guards, the clank of weaponry, the desert wind whistling through arrow slits would be a constant reminder of your besieged existence. You might try to distract yourself with architectural plans for your next grand project, a new theatre, a port city like Caesarea Maritima. Building was one of your passions and a way to project power and Roman sophistication. Or perhaps you would indulge in Roman-style luxuries, a hot bath, a cup of fine wine, though hopefully not too much, lest it dull your senses to danger. But true relaxation would be a rare commodity, so as you, Herod, finally lie down, perhaps on a Roman-style lectus within a heavily guarded chamber, the silence of the Judean night is not peaceful, it is tense, filled with unspoken fears and the echoes of past violence. Your mind is a fortress, constantly scanning for threats, replaying conversations, second-guessing loyalties. Sleep, when it comes, is likely shallow and disturbed, a brief, uneasy truce in your personal war against a world you perceive as hostile. You are the king who built magnificent monuments but could not build a fortress against his own nightmares. And so our journey through the strange night rituals of ancient kings comes to a close. From the dream-weaving pharaohs to the paranoid Herod, each ruler sought to navigate the darkness and the vulnerable state of sleep in their own unique way, shaped by their culture, their beliefs, and the immense pressures of their office. The night for them was never just a simple pause, but a continuation of their reign in realms both seen and unseen. As these ancient chambers fade, and the first light of your own dawn or the deeper quiet of your own night begins to settle around you, I hope this glimpse into their nocturnal worlds has been both intriguing and, in its own oddly soothing way, relaxing. Perhaps it makes your own bedtime routine of brushing your teeth and setting an alarm feel refreshingly straightforward. These rulers, with all their power and paranoia, their divine dialogues and desperate elixirs, were in the end just trying to make it through the night, much like the rest of us, albeit with significantly more dramatic flair and usually a much larger staff. May your own dreams be peaceful, free of imperial anxieties and whispering walls. The echoes of their grand and sometimes peculiar efforts to find peace in the darkness can now recede, allowing your own thoughts to soften, to quiet as you drift into a far more tranquil slumber. The weight of crowns and empires is not yours to bear tonight. There are no elixirs to test, no omens to decipher, only the gentle invitation of rest. Let the quiet enfold you, and may your journey into dreams be serene and untroubled.